Most people who crochet regularly have some sort of problems with it. A short time ago I was asking in my community tab what sort of problems people have in crochet, and I got almost 100 answers. In this here video I answered 10 of them, and now we are looking at 5. Let's get right into them, and today I'm filming in the botanical gardens in my town. The first problem came up in different projects, but all of them had something in common. You needed to make 2 of the same, and the 2 didn't turn out exactly the same. So that would be the problem with mittens or socks or gloves or fingerless gloves or even sleeves, that one sleeve wasn't exactly the same. And there is an easy way to fix this. You make the 2 at the same time. So you take 2 different balls of yarn, or whatever number of yarns you have, or you split the ball or whatever, and you make either 1 row around or maybe 3 or 4 rounds of one, and then switch on to the other one, and the 2 then grow at the same time. That way the way you crochet doesn't have time to change, because this problem often comes in a situation that there's been time, like you do 1 sock this week and another one next week. And one thing that also affects it is that when you get to the second one, you are more certain about what you're doing. So you are likely to crochet faster. With most people that means that you crochet tighter, but not necessarily. And there is also another benefit in this. That is that you save time, because if you are using a pattern, you only need to read it once, or if you are making it up as you go, you don't need to start counting stitches. You remember when you do the 2 at the same time. Before anybody asks, I did crochet this here top, and I don't have any pattern for it. I just made it up as I was going, so unfortunately there will be no pattern or tutorial on this. The next problem is losing the so-called yarn chicken. In other words, just before the end, your yarn comes to an end and you either can't or don't want to buy more of that yarn. There's mosquitoes here. Maybe you had that yarn for a long time, so if you bought more, it would not be the same dye lot, so it would show anyway. And if you don't need that yarn otherwise, you don't want to buy a whole ball or a skein just for, something a tiny bit like that. But there's a lot you can do about that. The first thing I always look at is that whatever I'm making, is the last row or round necessary? Is it possible just to undo the last row and end it there? Now, it may not be, but in many cases it can be. And the next one is it possible to maybe undo 3 rows or rounds and leave 1 away in between if the last one is necessary? Again, that depends on what you are making. If it's a lace pattern, it doesn't work, and also if you have a certain color sequence, it may not be possible. But if it's possible. Then the next thing to look at is that you undo a certain amount of it and crochet back tighter. It depends on how experienced a crocheter you are, if you can do that by just deciding to crochet tighter, or if it's better that you take a smaller hook. That way you use less yarn. And another thing what you can do, let's say that you have a project where you always have groups of 4 double crochets. Nobody sees it, not even yourself, if occasionally you drop one of them. So instead of doing 4, you undo some of it and you crochet back so that you have only 3 here and there. In any of these, can you leave one part of the stitch out? So I hope that one of these tricks helps when this happens to you next time. When you are filming on your own, you don't always notice that the camera is wrong. I was already at home when I realized that my head was missing in this one. But anyway, problem 3 is that your work starts twisting either to the left or to the right, and what to do about that. One situation where that happens with lots of people is that if you are making very large granny squares, this is not large, but what I mean is that it starts, as you go on, it starts going like this here, that it no longer stays completely square. And the same can happen with many types of large crochet items, especially ones that you crochet in the round, not back and forth. And something that can help in that Now that depends on what kind of stitches you are using, but if it is possible that when you finish a round, you turn it and start going the opposite direction, and then next time you go back again. How exactly you do it depends on how you go from one round to the next in a granny square. There are many different ways, but I'll just show how I would do it here. Because I would need to be here and starting from there, I need to get the stitch there. So I'll make a double crochet to finish off this here round. And now I'm turning the other way around and starting the way I normally would, granny square round in the corner. And then continue going that way in. I'm on the wrong side now because I haven't done that before. So that's something you could do. I personally normally don't because I haven't had that twisting, so I don't want to have wrong side stitches any more than is necessary. But it's worth trying. And this is the only question I'm going to do in such a sunny place. It's very, very hot here. Another problem is something that easily happens if you are using chenille type of yarns or other big and bulky yarns, and the stitches you are using are either loose, big, or have lots of holes, or it's like lace. Then it's very difficult to weave in your ends so that they don't come out or start showing somewhere. And there are a few things you can do about that. I have some crocheted chenille here. This is not very lacy, but it's not solid. First of all, I normally use sharp needles for weaving in, but now I'm going to use, this one is almost blunt. The important thing is then that you will go all the time, stay inside the stitches, just various ones. And so wherever there are stitches. And one tip that works with any weaving in is that you go backwards. So I take a stitch that way and then go backwards and do that same one again. So that's more likely to keep it. And then continue just trying to be inside the stitches as much as possible, and always just inside where they are so that it will show as little as possible if it starts coming out of there. And I'll do another one, let's say here, that I first go under it and then I come back and go under the same one. That ensures that it's not going to start slipping out of it anyway. Although that doesn't help with the end maybe showing. So when you are coming towards the end, try to find a place that has as many stitches as possible and going into all of them. Now it's hidden under quite a few stitches from both sides, and I'm cutting it not too close because it's going to stretch a little bit. And then when you sort of fluff the end of it, then it doesn't show that it is an end. So working this way should keep it hidden as much as possible. And the fifth problem today is one that also several people mentioned, and that is that you don't get straight edges in your crochet in spite of using many of those tips and tricks that there are for that. And for that problem I could think of two reasons. The first one is that you are turning the wrong way around. And actually another very likely reason is that you are new to crochet. So the way you crochet, you haven't had time yet so that your stitches would always be even and the same. So it's just a question of experience and time. But about the edges, here I have used my favorite way of keeping double crochets straight. I'm linking that video. It's putting two together at the end. But about turning. When you turn crochet, you normally do it like a page in a book. You turn like this here, and then you continue in the next row. If you turn the other way around, so that you go sort of underneath like that there, the problem is that the yarn is then in front, and you have to decide what you do to it. That because the yarn is in the front, you are needing to do something to it to get it to the next stitch. And since there's no benefit to turn this way, the simple answer is simply that you get used to turning the basic way. And the other possible reason for this that comes to my mind is that your tension with your left hand, if you are right-hand crocheter, that your tension isn't even. So whatever way you are holding your yarn, you would need to make sure that the tension is always the same, that you don't need to do anything so that the yarn doesn't run smoothly. Because if it's not even, what easily happens is that at the spot where you have to turn round, the yarn gets loosened or tightened, and both of those would cause either a loop or it would pull the edge a bit so that it wouldn't look even. How you ensure that the yarn is running smoothly depends on which way you crochet, so I couldn't go into all those, there's so many. Personally, what I do, I have my yarn here like that, and I can touch this here a little bit before lifting it, and then I can tighten it in here. So with my way of crocheting, this is what ensures that the tension is always the same and that I don't need to do anything extra to keep it even. But that's something you need to find with your way of crocheting. So if you have that problem, you could check these. And I have many different videos about straight edges, so I'm linking some of those in the description as well. But this here question was that you do know those tips and it's still not even. Have you come up with any of these problems? If so, did these here answers that I gave help you? Or also, do you have different kinds of answers and different kinds of solutions to these questions? If you do, please tell me in the comments. There are quite a few crochet problems left on that there list. So in a while I'll make another video again and go through some of them again.